Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy Siskind. I'm the author of Jazz Piano Fundamentals, Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3, Modern and Modal, as well as playing solo jazz piano. So one of the assignments I have my students do every year is to write a dream solo. And this is basically composing the sort of solo that you might improvise. And I feel like this is really valuable. I often give them some kind of a task with the solo. Maybe they're going to focus on pentatonic scales. Maybe they're going to focus on non-chord tones so that they practice incorporating it into a solo. I also really like this because it gives me a chance to actually look at what they're doing and give them feedback without having to go back and say, it sounded like you were playing in F sharp in bar 4 and you shouldn't do that, right? So it kind of allows us to go over things in a different way. So I want to demonstrate writing a dream solo. I'll do it on Autumn Leaves because I happen to have this blank sheet. And I want us to focus on a particular concept. And I mentioned this a few times on the channel before, but never enough. It's a very important concept to me. And the concept is basically this idea that any measure, like let's take this measure, is going to be divided into two parts. One part is going to be the part where we're essentially outlining the chord in that measure. Okay, so we're going to use things like arpeggios principally, maybe some scales, maybe some non-chord tones to emphasize the chord tones. And then, oh no, my mic. Okay, a little more than halfway through, we are going to then be doing something to set up a chord tone in the next measure. Okay, so in each measure, only about half, maybe a little bit more than half, is going to be dedicated to that chord. And then maybe a beat and a half, maybe even up to 2 beats are going to be focused on targeting a chord tone in the next measure. So I think you're going to see how this is going to work as we go on. Now, as we're doing this, and this is one of the tricky things about dream solos, and one of the tricky things about composing in general, we're going to be going back and we're going to be listening for balance. Like, are phrases starting in different places in the measure? Do things feel connected? Is there enough tension? Is there enough release? All of those sorts of things. So bear with me. I have a very simple chart for Autumn Leaves here. And let's see if we can write a dream solo, focusing on this kind of half bar formula. So let's start with a nice simple C minor arpeggio. So I'm going to start with a rest. Duolingo. Don't make that mistake of always starting right on beat 1. Okay, so here's my C minor part of the measure. I'm really coming close to this microphone here. I don't want to knock the mute button. Okay, so it's the 9th, the 7th, and the 5th. And I'm going to aim for this 7th of the F7. And I'm going to just move into it by half steps. Okay, so this is going to be the halfway point of the measure. And I'm going to go F, E, E flat. Now, you could say the F is the 11th on the C minor. You could come up with things, but really, as I'm writing those two notes, I'm not thinking about C minor 7 at all. I'm just thinking about half steps leading into the E flat. So now we have. And let's do an arpeggio going up. I'll go to the 9th, I'll go to the 3rd, I'll go to the 13th. So 7th, flat 9, 3rd, 13th. Okay, and now I'm going to aim for this A, the 7th. It's happened that I'm aiming for the 7th twice in a row. And let's aim in by half steps. And my just melodic instincts are telling me it might be nice to aim for it on the end of 4. So here, really I stopped thinking about F7 halfway at the halfway point of the measure. So. Okay, so I'm gonna aim for now this D natural. And here, maybe I could just connect using a little arpeggio. Ba, ba, da, da, da. So because these are kind of connected by thirds, I'm just using an arpeggio. And I'll aim for the third now of the A half diminished. Beta, don't. Notice as I do this, I get a lot of pickups. So this is the difference I often talk about with improvising: proactive versus reactive improvisation. So here I'm thinking ahead, I'm looking ahead towards the next thing. So let's use some non-chord tones to ornament this A half diminish. Let's connect. Let's do like a triplet here. Maybe not that. I was gonna do C, B flat, C, B, B flat, A, and then A flat, G, but then it just ends up being a chromatic scale. It's not really that interesting. So it's maybe a little bit nicer to go. And let's aim for a D here. I don't often encourage students to aim for the root. And then I'm going to do half steps ascending into that D. So you can hear that there's kind of a random big sounding gap. So let's fill it in with another chord tone. So here it's really just the last two, but you can see how I'm working. I'm working from the downbeat backwards. Okay, now I don't want to have all of my phrases like basically go to bar 4. So I'm going to end this phrase with some kind of a just do-dit, really short phrase ending. So let's go to that flat 5. That's going to be colorful, very bebop-y. And that flat 5, my ear really wants to have it resolve at some point. It could resolve down to G, but it's probably going to be more interesting to have it resolve up to A. So let's aim for, on the end of 4, we're going to resolve that. So I'm going to use the B flat to get into it. And then that D kind of picks up on this lower melody here. Ba-doo-ah, 2, 3. Ba-doo-ah. Let's see. It again is kind of feeling like I'm going to end the phrase in the same place. So I'm going to move back. I'm going to play this whole thing and let's see what we feel like doing about this phrasing. So maybe some kind of a sequence. 2, so ba-doo-da, 2, 3, ba-doo-da. And I'm kind of following my instincts. And then what I'm gonna do to keep this phrase going is I'm just gonna kind of continue on. Deo. You know, I'm gonna do something with D and C there, because oh, so my ear is hearing the D and the C on 1 amp. So I am trusting my instincts here. You know, it's not all just a formula. But I am, again, figuring out what I'm aiming for first. I'm figuring out what I'm aiming for first, and then I'm figuring out, okay, back up, how am I going to set that up? How am I going to make that sound good? So we haven't done a lot of scales. So here's a, you know, little C scale, C Dorian moment. And I'm going to aim for this C. So I'm going to go just half steps above. A lot of what I'm doing is half steps above, half steps below, maybe an enclosure sometimes. And let's stick with the idea of scales. Let's do a octatonic scale. And let's see. Let's put a triplet or something in here to break up the eighth notes. Sure, we'll just put in a triplet here. And let's see. And so, again, if we're thinking about where I'm dividing these measures, I'm going to I'll use a chromatic enclosure here. And then that F kind of belongs to both sides. Oh, so it's going to be F, E, E flat, C sharp, D. Okay, I gotta play this from the beginning again. Let's see how it's all stacking up. So, one more time. 2, 3, 4, 1. And here, I'm definitely feeling we've had a lot of eighth notes in a row. And I'm gonna like set up some different chord tones and ornament them. So again, you know, it's a little bit different than I've been talking about, but again, I'm placing the notes that I know that I want, the chord tones on the beat, and I'm figuring out how to ornament them. That stem should go the other way, but don't hate me. realize I'm not doing as good of a job describing what I'm doing. All right, so where do I want to aim for on this D7? So let's do a little delayed resolution. So let's have the 5th here. And let's actually, here, let's try this. We're gonna have the 5th all the way here. I've never actually tried this in a dream solo. And I'm gonna do 2 half steps leading into the 5th. This might be weird. So now I'm gonna fill in this whole bar with just some A half diminished kind of arpeggios, little non-chord tone. There's our non-chord tone. But this sounds pretty cool now. And let's aim for the D natural here. And so we'll do that. E is a little bright for this, so I'm going to approach it by those kinds of steps. Let's go for it. Let's have a really fun leap. And here might be just a nice place to use a little blue scale for a little tension and release. Okay, just some blue scale, nothing fancy. All right, so let's hear these 16 bars of solo. If you've stuck with me, hopefully you've learned something. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I don't think it's the greatest solo ever written or ever played, but it's not the worst either. It sounds more or less like bebop style jazz. So again, my hope on your takeaway of this is that we want to think maybe as much, maybe partially as much about where we're going. And in those last beat to beat and a half, the last 2 to 3 eighth notes of a measure, you want to be mainly focusing on where you're headed and setting up that note, especially with chromaticism. If this feels like a good level for you and this is the kind of stuff you really want to learn, I would suggest Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, the purple book. This is a lot of great improvisation exercises of roughly this level in order to help you learn. If you have made it this far, let's see, say something about setup. Because we were talking about setting up notes in the next measure, setting up chord tones using chromatic notes. Thanks for watching, everybody.